Um, well, I'm a 64-year-old white guy with spina bifida. I grew up in New York, just north of New York City. And right now, I am wearing a yellow striped, blue and white striped shirt. I've got glasses on. I've got long curly hair. Thank the Lord, I haven't gone bald yet. And I sitting in my home office, which has got a red wall and some music posters on the back. So that's kind of who I am today. And I did grow up in the New York area and moved to California for college. Went to UC San Diego. I studied drama, and I've had a career in audio post-production, starting off in live theater and then moving into film work and documentary film works specifically.
So how did you, sorry, Andy, go ahead.
So yeah, go ahead, Liza. Yeah, you had a question.
No, we just were so curious about how you decided to make this film. I know it was a fortuitous lunch between you and your co-producer, but clearly it was in your mind ahead of that.
Well, I mean, I just been working on all of these documentaries in my audio career, and I've always been kind of politically active when I can, and I understood the power of filmmaking and documentary film, and I just felt like, you know, media is just such a strong way to deliver a message, and the message around disability that I wasn't seeing things that were really doing a lot to remove stigma or stereotypes, and I felt like if people understood our human experience and not on some lens that was kind of coming down on us, but from the inside out, that would perhaps really make a shift. And Nicole and I really set out to try to make a film that would make people think about disability differently and really consider how, as non-disabled or disabled people, how they felt about disability, and hopefully change the paradigm.
I think you hit that. I mean, you completely accomplished what you set out to do, if you ask me, because I think that you somehow made the whole concept of disability accessible to the non-disabled, and you know, it's kind of an upside down use of the word, but so many people who see this film all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, you know, we've had it wrong all, you know, our whole lives and for generations and, you know, generations. So.
Well, also one of the things we kept on hearing from folks is that, how come I didn't know this history? And that kind of goes to the root of how perhaps society's looked upon us, that our story is not that important. I mean, my God, you've got all these people during the 504 sit-in demonstrating outside the federal building, going in there, taking over the building for 26 days. And there was not extensive news coverage, except for Evan White, who really embedded with us there. And so and even our history today, I mean, we were fortunate we had a lot of resources, financial and time, to really dig in, because so much of our history hasn't really been well cataloged or digitized in certain in certain libraries that have our holdings. So I would just say that, you know, every the reason people don't know this story or why this is kind of revolutionary is partially, I think, due to how society values us as people.
That was one of the questions, like, later on we were going to ask is, you know, in my growing up, going to, you know, school education, we heard a lot of you know, civil rights movements, but women's suffrage, but baked into the textbooks was not the 504 sit-in or, you know, ADA. You learned maybe a paragraph of that in a history book? Why do you think it's not taught widespreadly?
Well, I mean, it's taken a lot of different marginalized communities working long and hard to get their history included in the traditional history books and lesson plans. And I think that we see that for the LGBTQ community. It's our hope that our film will be part of that educational package that really talks about disability. But I mean, do people know that we have a community? Do people know that we have a culture? You know, for me, when I see, when I see dance from our community, when I see other filmmakers, to me, that gives me a sense of pride and belonging. But if you don't know your history, it just becomes much more difficult to really get a sense of where you are now and where you might go in the future. So we're hoping that Crip Camp will open up educational opportunities to our history. And in fact, on our website at www.cripcamp.com, there's a lot of great information in there, and we're developing a total of 10 lesson plans and have 2 of them finished. With Crip Camp now being available on YouTube for a specific period of time, it's going to allow more people to be able to watch the film and talk about it and use it on their online learning. I really encourage people to go to our website just because it's we're doing a lot of different things in our impact campaign that might interest people, including our Sunday kind of virtual Crip camps that have been happening for the last month or so, and then will continue into August.
That's awesome. So you talk about community, and that it's so apparent in the film. What a huge community, a sense of community existed at Camp Jened. And so I'm curious. Prior to, and I know you attend. I think I'd heard or read that you attended some other camps before Camp Jened. Was that community something that you experienced in the other camps as well, or was there something just exceptional about Camp Jened?
It's mostly that Camp Jened was rather exceptional, but mind you, as in the summer that we really focus on in the film is when I was 15. But this other camp I went to, it felt very institutionalized and very infantilizing. I mean, I had to go to bed at 8:30. And
okay.
What 13-year-old, 14-year-old wants to go to bed at 8:30? And it was a dorm and not a bunk, and the counselors didn't sleep in the same space as you. And you get to Camp Jened, and and literally the summer of 1969, when I heard about the camp, there was a lot of campers from Jened came to the other camp I was going to, because their dining room had burned down during the wintertime, so there was no camp. And they said, yeah, man, it's like, there are bunks, and we stay up pretty late, and there's music playing all the time. The counselors sleep in the bunk, and, dude, you might smoke dope with your counselor. It wasn't like they were putting that on the brochure or anything, but it was kind of something of the time. But it was the sense of actually being able to really have a time in which I actually could really truly be a teenager and really experience myself for who I am without a very rigid and looking back on it, really not really enabling me to really kind of come into my own kind of atmosphere. I don't think I'm quite saying that right, but I would say that in the early 1970s, when I went to Camp Jened, it was a time in which society in general was taking a look at the status quo and trying to blow up all the old oppressive paradigms. There were liberation movements going on for so many different communities, and That's where I met Judy Heumann, who's such a beloved member of our community and real disabled civil rights icon. And she'd been a camper at Jeanette. The summers that I met her, saw her, she was a staff member. But it was the first time I met somebody who was politically active, and she prevailed in this lawsuit to get her teaching position. For the first time, I met somebody who, first off, she's like so freaking dynamic and wonderful and engaging, and is obviously to this day. But that, you're raised kind of feeling like, well, whatever your lot in life is, that's what it's going to be. And, these are the days before curb cuts or blue zones for parking or any civil rights protections at all. And here was Judy, who filed suit, and she prevailed in the lawsuit. And I didn't think that was possible. I just thought we had to take what was given to us as if everything that we were given is charity. And by the same token, any charity could be taken away at a moment's notice. So and I found the world very unfair, as most adolescents and 15-year-olds do. But this gave me an outlet for something to do. And when Judy started Disabled in Action in New York, I heard about it. I did whatever I could to get, from the suburbs of New York City down to go to meetings. And
so how often were you able to do that? How much did you participate in the rallies?
It's a little bit of a hazy memory for me now. So thank God I have this film to go back and look at parts of my life and remember it. But in the film, you can see me and Pat Figueroa from Disabled in Action at an early Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday celebration that was happening in the city. And I remember going to a couple of other organizing meetings. And I had my beloved grandmother lived right on the edge of Greenwich Village. And I used to take the train down from Hartsdale. And I think I had to pull my chair up the stairs to get to on the train platform. But I'd go into Grand Central Station, and usually I could find a way up to the street level. Either there was a ramp or an elevator, because that place is like so huge. And I would roll 32 blocks in my wheelchair down to her place in the village. But you learn how to pop curbs with your manual chair. You know that if you go over a block, there's going to be a park there that'll take you down 3 more blocks without having to pop on and off a curb. And I just want to say I was really fortunate. I mean, I'm grateful for what we have now, and I'm grateful that I was able to manage, considering the lack of access and stigma that I grew up with.
Speaking of growing up, prior to camp, what did your support group look like?
Well, my family, my mother and father. My mother worked very hard to make sure I got into camp and such. And in fact, I was an experiment in our school district. That I was in special ed for kindergarten, part of first grade, but my teacher there said that I was going to be, my intelligent whatever, that I would do much better in public school. I'd be better served. And I still have this 2-page letter from the school district kind of saying, this is an experiment, and we won't do this, and you're responsible for that. And so I got to go to public school for the middle of first grade, and I was there through high school. Besides my family, I had friends on and off, and so and some of that was, I had a friend, Mark, who we kind of got into trouble together. And and thank goodness my parents were not overprotective. Obviously, they cared about my welfare, but gave me experiences and opportunities to be out in the world on my own. And I think that's so important for all of us. Give, you don't want to, have your kid go off, a cliff or anything, but you want them to give them opportunities where they can fail within the safety of family and friends. And you want to give them opportunities to learn how to be independent and look out for themselves. And I got that.
So that makes me think of the scene in the movie when y'all were, in the group discussion, and you brought up the question of parents, and how do people feel about their parents, and it sounds like a lot of the kids at camp didn't have the same level of opportunity or independence. I know is a loaded word, but there was a lot of comments about wanting more privacy and and those kinds of things, but there was something that I also really noticed in that scene as well that struck me very deeply, which was how everybody listened to everybody else and gave each other all the time they needed to verbalize in any way that they could. And it made me wonder if that was kind of the, does that reflect life at camp? Was it, were people that generous toward each other on a regular basis? And is there a message in it for us today?
It's a really wonderful question. And it's something that some other people have pointed out to us. And it brings up the importance of community. I learned from the others at camp that I should be patient, that I should allow somebody to talk and give them the respect and courtesy of not trying to complete sentences for them. Mm-hmm. To be honest, if I didn't understand what they were saying, but to make sure that everybody got heard. And this was absolutely part of the culture of Camp Jened, and something that we see displayed in the movie itself, where the meetings during the sit-in could not start until the ASL interpreters were there. Yeah. But it is one of the stunning things that when Nancy Rosenblum was talking, this is the moment of the scene, and she's hard to understand. Mm-hmm. That everybody's patient, everybody's paying attention. And even the videographers who, were from the outside weren't like, okay, let's go on. They were like, I didn't catch all of that, but did somebody else kind of get it? And then Steve Hoffman says, I think I know what she said. And he interprets for her. First off, needless to say, I did not remember this after 45, 50 years. And when Nicole and I sat down and opened up the videos and we saw this scene, we basically had to stop and collect ourselves and realize that this was really like one of the pinnacle moments of the film, because of what you pointed out, Liza, that this is the way that we should regard people. And that if we're too busy to give somebody some time, they're not the problem. You've got a problem with how you structured your life or how you love or respect other people.
I think that's a hard lesson for a lot of us.
Well, yeah, man. I was like, I get my healthcare through Kaiser in California. Mm-hmm. And there's like a coffee stand, like a Starbucks thing there. And I remember that there was a very older senior citizen there who was talking to the person behind the counter. And there was a very, very impatient person that worked in the hospital, basically saying, yeah, okay, let's go. To this day, and this happened about a year ago, I wish that I had confronted that person. Mm-hmm. Just to simply say, how do you think that made that person feel? And what is so precious? Now, I know certainly that person working in the hospital has a ton going on. But you would think that people would be more sensitive about things like this. And so when we talk about disability, we're not, and we look at the special situations we may present to people who are outside our community, it isn't just about disability. It's about folks that are getting older. It's about folks for which English is not their first language. It's for people who maybe are uncomfortable. So hopefully there's a universal story well beyond disability that people will take away from Crip Camp. I feel like I'm up on a soapbox today, so I.
It's a good box to be on. We like it.
Yeah, those
this is
words.
I mean, this has been a very important project for all of us that worked on the film, and to have it available on Netflix and have the Obama's production company want to be executive producers and support us, really with their sleeves rolled up. It's a wonderful honor, but it's been really a big responsibility. And so what you're hearing to me today is that, this has been, we've had this opportunity to talk for a long time. I think I'm a little weary today, to be honest with you, because coming up with the 8830, I've been on a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been so meaningful to finally get an opportunity for our community to be heard in a way that's very authentic and not through somebody else's lens.
We had a question roll in from someone watching live. They want to know, I guess maybe surrounding either Crip Camp or Camp Jeanette. When did you realize that you're part of something special?
I think that personally, when you're 15, everything is kind of new to an extent. And certainly knowing that you're in an environment which is a lot better and different than what you have at home or at previous camps, you do appreciate it. But I was probably more focused in hanging out and my first girlfriend, Nancy. And so, the pat answer would be, well, I had a sense that something was going on. I was busy just trying to enjoy life. And it's certainly by looking back on this and seeing how these people, some of which I am still in touch with, really affected my life. When you get to that point in your life when you really start reflecting, I think you really see, times in your life where, oh my God, this came as close to never happening, and realizing what an incredible experience it was.
Why did it almost not happen to you? Was there a chance you wouldn't? Was it a last minute thing that you got to go to that camp?
Well, I think that life. Yeah, here I should put on the sitar music now. Life. Life is made up of a whole bunch of different things that may or might not happen to you. And I appreciate the fragility of life and somehow the synchronicity that may or may not happen.
Sure. And
so certainly my parents could have said no to going to this other camp. Those folks made their dining room maybe didn't burn down during the wintertime, and I never met them. So and even with our, just with our film, a lot of things just kind of fell into place, and finding some footage at the very last minute that was really, really helped the film. It was like, wow, that's amazing. I can't believe that. Or like some of the footage, the news footage of this early demonstration in Washington, you're searching through archives, you get these screeners to look at, and all you know is that it's about this disability demonstration in Washington. And all of a sudden, oh my God, there's Neil Jacobson. Oh my God, that's Denise. Wait, and then I say, wait, that's Nancy. I know that's Nancy. You don't really see her face, but I remember her wheelchair and what her armrests looked like, and kind of what her body looked like from the back. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. And we had a lot of those.
So that brings up another question that has been burning on us too, is even like from what you've just said about all the people you saw on, on these news clips, why do you think it is that so much of that grew out of Camp Jened? Why are all those people, why did they become the main activists?
I think honest to God, I think it was, a lot of it was our, well, two things, but I think meeting Judy Heumann and becoming friends with her at Camp Jened was important to a lot of us. And also just the environment of the camp. And Judy talks about how at night, she and other girls in the bunk would talk about how their lives should, we should have our own civil rights movement. And so Judy came out in the mid-'70s to Berkeley because Ed Roberts asked her to help run the Center for Independent Living out here. And, Judy kind of, it's almost like somebody going out to, America and calling back to the old country saying, the ramps are paved with gold and you must come out here, right? It's like, so here you are, you have to deal with snow, the city's relatively flat, there's a strong disabled community, CIL can help you find housing, can help you find personal care attendants, and can also help you get on SSI if that's what you need to do. So it was a very well-established support system that was available. And look, when I first talked to Denise Jacobson about this exodus of people from New York out to Berkeley, I mean, some of my internal ableism came out. Because I said, Denise, you must have been so brave to go out there to Berkeley. And I think that if she could, she would have slapped me across the face and went, what do you mean? It's like there's a no-brainer. No snow. Judy's out there. We have all of this, of course.
She's a great character.
Denise and Neil are some of the funniest people I've met, some of the most passionate people I've met. And Denise has been working on a manuscript of kind of a young adult book about her summer at Camp Jened.
Oh, wow.
That we're all praying is going to find a publisher. We're really, grateful for everybody that decided to participate in the film.
That's awesome. We'd love to see that come to fruition and be able to get our hands on that when it's possible. I had someone raising their hand I think they've scoped out your website already after you mentioned it, and they had a couple of questions after checking it out about some of the partnerships and things on it. One was the partnership with Adobe and the Kite D. Davidson Fellowship, and another one about the Crip Camp virtual experience.
As a soundman, I'm hearing some noise, by the way. I don't know if you're moving anything on your microphone, but I can never stop telling people when they have problems with their audio.
Yeah, I was moving the mouse a little bit, sorry.
Stop that. The Kite Davidson and with Adobe. We've been fortunate enough to raise funds with Adobe as the major sponsor of a mentorship and a fellowship for creatives working, disabled creatives working in the arts, and we will be announcing the recipients of those on our virtual Crip Camp on Sunday. Of course, the deadline was a couple of days ago. We got a huge avalanche of applications right at the last moment, but close to 200 people have applied for it.
Wow.
Yeah, but there's a lot of support there that, those of us who quote unquote have made it, have this ability to, really help bring along and help the next generation working in the arts and other areas. We established also a emergency relief fund when COVID hit, and for folks with disabilities, especially working in as artists and such. And we're close to being able to start distributing that money. We hit some roadblocks in being able to get it turned around really, really quickly, but that is happening also. But I mean, I think the great thing about well, the thing that I think we're very proud about is really using our film as a way to really support everybody in our community, and to really help focus on disability justice, which really looks at disability rights through a non-white, non-straight lens, and really looking at who, when we talk about inclusion and, people with disabilities have not been part of the diversity and inclusion in so many organizations, we have to do the same thing ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we have to ask ourselves who's not at the table, and why is that, and what can we do? And so there's been a very strong commitment on, we realized that was something that we were hoping to be able to really achieve with the impact campaign, which many documentaries, they have some kind of an impact campaign. You make this film, people watch it and they kind of go, well, all right, tell me what to do. Where do I send money? What do I, and so we really handed off this campaign to two women who are really deeply embedded in the disability justice movement, and Andrea Levant and Stacey Milburn. And what they designed was beyond anything we could even imagine. We have been looking at other companies who do this for a living, and it's like what they did was so audacious, and they pulled it off. So that makes me really happy.
I guess. That's awesome. So how many will be recipients of the fellowship award?
Quiz time. I believe it's, I think it's 6 people. So I apologize not having the exact number.
Oh no, that's fine. I mean, that's a small number for a lot of applications. You've got a big job ahead of you on that.
Yeah, there's people who are staying up late and drinking lots of coffee right now so that we can hit our deadline on Sunday.
We'll try not to keep you up too late. So I have a question of, because I know that you are a sound designer. Is that correct?
Editor, designer, mixer, all of the above.
And there are pictures of you in the film. As a young adult in the job, and having to climb yourself up to difficult places, physical places. And then I think there was some, a reference later on that after the ADA was enacted, that maybe things got a little bit physically easier for you, or less challenged in terms of getting to work. And but how much in reality did things change for you with the ADA? Well,
combination of the 504 regulations and the ADA did have an impact in that I had legal protections, and architecturally things were changing all around me. So, it's the little things like all of a sudden it's not a door knob, but it's a door handle that really make a big difference for so many people. And again, it's like what's good for us around accessibility is actually good for everybody. But I mean, when I was working in legitimate theater, it's a lot of old buildings and with nonprofit arts organizations. And so renovating buildings, doesn't happen very quickly, but yet certain accommodations have been made over the years. And in the case, I was very fortunate that Berkeley Rep was in the process of building new theater in downtown Berkeley, right as the 504 regulations had been issued. And so there was an elevator in that building, and they asked me to look at the plans for the space. And I remember there was one ramp I went up and down every day that was going to be a step, and I was like, in fact, you see it in the movie, right at the beginning of the movie, where you see me kind of coming down this ramp outdoors on this breezeway, and
Yep.
that ramp was going to be a step down. So it was like, I remember that. So, certainly, partially what has also happened, at least in our field, is that so many things became computer-based that used to be much more manual. And so it has made it easier for folks who have mobility issues to work in the film industry, and really with all different types of disabilities, even the accessibility of the software for people who are visually impaired. I kind of just hear anecdotally that at one point it was very good, and this one piece of software they revised it and it totally broke everything, and I think it's gotten better again. But I think one of the greatest things that I'm seeing is online accessibility, that with closed captions, and then and also online learning also. That there were schools like MIT who sued not to have captioning on their free learning stuff, and the law was on our side, and they had no choice. And one of the Nicole likes to say that we're kind of like an icebreaker, that we're going to these new places and really kind of spreading the gospel of accessibility. And with Netflix, Crip Camp has more audio description and captioning, more languages than they've ever done before.
Oh, wow.
And also there is a link on their webpage for a film that if you click on details, you can either view or download a 163-page script that allows people who are deaf, blind to experience the film.
Oh my gosh, that's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
And look, and this company, we think about these large companies as being soulless or, not responsive. And these people were fantastic. We had great meetings. And, especially with a person with a disability, you kind of have lived life, especially an old guy like me. It's like, it'd be really nice if we could. Maybe you could think about doing. And it's like, look, we're going to be the standard bearer and we're a very important film for the community. And if we don't do these things, we and Netflix are just going to be, called to task for it. And it wasn't like they were scared. It's like, tell us more. What are the resources? And they really jumped in and made it work. And with their hearts. And, funny thing, right? 25% of our population has a disability. Virtually almost anybody on any team that we worked with either had a disabled child or a relative, or they had one themselves, or they had a good friend. So it wasn't like we had to really convince people that there was a reason to do this. We were just the agent of change. And look, now we're part of their culture. We're really part of the culture of that company, and they know how to do things. They know what's expected. And we've all learned from missteps here and there. So, I'm freaking thrilled.
Rightly so. Oh my gosh. And I mean, and so did you time the film to come, to be released in March, in preparation, the upcoming of the 30th anniversary, or was that another, happenstance that worked out as,
It just kind of worked out that way. Look, I mean, I think Nicole and I would have liked to have had the film come out in 2016 before the election, just so that we could be part of the discussion. If we all pull together and really identify as a community, and we could become such a strong voter base that people would not ignore us. And when we were first early working on the film, I had a couple of beers with Susan Henderson, who's the executive director of DREDF, the Disability Rights Education Defense Fund. And she said to me, if you could do one thing, it would be to get people to identify as being disabled, because of the power that we actually really have in numbers. Now, to kind of get back to your question, we thought we were going to be finished in 2018. than it was maybe 2019. But as it kind of turned out, early this year was, when we were finally, I think we basically kind of finished right after the new year, and kind of just got it in time so that so we premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, and where we very fortunately received the Audience Award for Best Documentary.
How was that, just receiving that award?
It was wonderful. I have to tell you, as award ceremony goes, as it was going on, people were like clapping less and kind of looking at their phones and stuff. But when the award was announced and it was us, the whole place lit up. And we got such a wonderful reception. And yeah, I mean, it was just really meaningful. I mean, like Sundance used to be really a very tough and unresponsive organization when it came to accessibility. And through a lot of work of myself and other people, it's become one of the leaders in really wanting to be accessible, not just for audiences, but for people that are involved with their labs and everything they do. And it was I almost kind of felt like our coming out party as a community at that festival. And we had a funder that, when he first contacted us, says, I want to make sure that all the kids come out for the opening of Crip Camp. And I said, well, that's really wonderful. We're all in our 60s now. So it's, so kids may not be quite where we had put it. But we had basically just about anybody who was in the film was on stage. And you saw these people in wheelchairs, and Dennis Billups, who's blind. And it really was felt like this moment of recognition and coming of age. I don't think that's quite the right word, but you know what I mean, for our community. And Corbett O'Toole, who's in the film, had said to Nicole and I that Crip Camp felt like a love letter to our community. And I was, I repeated that up on stage. Because when we think about disability, we don't think about love or joy or other things, but that this is, unfortunately, I think that this is what made our film so well received, was that there is joy.
Yeah.
There is power, there's intrigue, there is power. And that's what we've always possessed. That's what we've always had. Just no one has really seen it.
I love the feeling. I mean, that's just I love that description of, all of you on the stage is just so heartwarming. I'd love to have seen it.
Well, Liza, it was a large theater, but we worked with them and they ripped out some seats in the theater because there was not enough wheelchair seating for everybody. But they pulled out seats and made it so, so I mean, yeah, we had a lot of folks there.
But that's pretty perfect.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No. No, I love it. It's great. Because one of the thing, I loved in the film too, and I know we're closing in on the end of our hour, and but I just, two things that I wanted to, one I wanted to share an observation, and then a question I have. But I loved the scene. I think it probably was your the Olympic celebration. When everybody's playing ball, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was talking about the fact that at Camp Jened, everybody's on the team, and if you strike out, you're out. It just felt like it was just a great equalizing opportunity, that everybody is as wonderful as everybody else, which is what, as it should be. And I love that you had that opportunity, all of you, and the places that it took everybody. And I would like to ask you, if you were speaking to, teenagers in the disability community now, what advice would you give them in how to get the most out of life, and is any of that affected by 504, and what could still grow out of ADA?
I think that as I've been asked questions in my life about how do I get into the film industry or what do I do? I think there's like kind of like a universal answer of find your community. And nowadays, being able to find other people online, access people because of the ability of places like Facebook, it's a lot easier. There was some people that started their own Facebook group called Crip Camp 2020 as an outgrowth of our weekly webinars that we were having every Sunday. And they've got like 600 people from throughout the world. And people are introducing themselves. And they are, showing who they are. And I've been really, I've just loved it. So I think that it's going to be tougher if you're meek in life, as Judy says in the film. She wants to see a feisty group of people with disabilities. But that I just think one has to take control of their lives and seek out other people. And that they are out there. Just do a little bit of digging. And because you're going to learn from somebody, but they're going to learn from you too. And if we keep this community going, and as folks get older and other folks join our community and our culture, we should all be helping each other and learning from each other.
One of the things that I, after watching the movie, we did a little book club coffee break at work, and it was just like this. It was on Zoom, and I don't know, how familiar you are with the Ability Experience where Andy and I work, but our mission is creating shared experiences between the fraternity brothers of Pi Kappa Phi and folks in the disability community, and I left that film viewing and our discussion going, this is the reason we exist, is because everybody just needs to be one of the group. And I love being part of some of the what they call friendship visits, which are just casual bingo games, karaoke night. They even do virtual dance parties with, between these college guys and folks that they don't know personally in the disability community. Normally they're in person, but obviously now we can't do that. But it just feels so good and so right that the barriers are taken away. And you said, everybody wins there. Everybody learns and grows from that.
And that's really lovely, really, really lovely to hear. It's a two-way street that you folks come in and engage with people, but that recognize that we also have so many things to offer in our lives, in our lived experience, that could be benefit to you folks in your lives. People with disabilities, by virtue of this world that was not built for us, have become natural problem solvers or figured out workarounds on so many different things. And so I would just say, let's, like you kind of said, let's all dance together.
That's awesome. And that's so motivating when we think about our mission at the Ability Experience of, like you said, it's a two-way street, and that's so awesome. And I can't agree enough, and that means so much. Before we have just a couple more minutes, if you have a question for Jim, if you want to put it in that Q&A box. One question we had that came through recently is, Jim, how are you going to personally celebrate 8830 on Sunday?
Well, we have a two-hour virtual Crip Camp, and there's going to be a special video there that Netflix has helped produce. And when we had our virtual camp a couple of weeks ago, we had a surprise guest who used to be the resident of the White House. So I think we'll be able to see his part of that discussion in that video. So excited about that. And outside of that, yeah, I think I'll crack a beer and probably enjoy myself and appreciate whose shoulders that I'm sitting upon, standing upon, rolling upon, who really gave their lives and their to what we can all enjoy today.
So we have another question. As one of our participants asked, "What's next for you, work-wise? Is there another film that you're interested in making? Maybe."
There's a lot of things I want to do. I have a writing partner. And, we had worked up a pilot of a kind of a comedy, television show, and but I am really interested in maybe working in a documentary space, maybe an episodic about the healthcare, the experience of people with disabilities in the healthcare system. And it's not, and digging very, very deeply and personally, like we did in Crip Camp. Like, if you're disabled and trans, what are you dealing with here? What could be fixed? And what are the things that are preventing you from getting better health care? Or in my case, is somebody was an individual health care plan who has no coverage for wheelchairs, repairs or purchase, and no coverage for a CPAP. So there were things that people don't really understand. And again, how do I make this entertaining? And I've got another filmmaker who I've been dying to work with, and he and I are working developing this. And Nicole and I'm sure we're going to be doing some things down the road, but she's looking at other things. And we're also looking at what other versions of Crip Camp might wind up being made in the future, maybe in the scripted area. But there's nothing to speak about yet.
Well,
I think that's awesome, and we hope to see more of your continued awards or success, and maybe see another Jim LeBrecht or co-director Jim LeBrecht on Netflix or YouTube or wherever it is, because we've so enjoyed Crip Camp and watched it several times, and we love promoting it, and we want the world to see it. So we thank you, and I think it's all the questions that we've had roll in, the live questions. But is there anything else that you'd like to say to close this out, Jim?
I would just, I think that from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate being here today and talking with you all. And obviously you are people that as an organization really care about those around you, and carry in your heart during these tough times how important what you're doing, and be brave and be vocal and take good care of yourself so you can continue your work.
Well, thank you, and you as well. We're so grateful for your time and your energy, and especially this busy week for you. And we really look forward to being able to share this out, with those who weren't able to be with us tonight. So,
well, I'm looking forward to sharing it with other people if it's open to the public to look at. So,
fantastic.
Yes, we plan on sharing this on YouTube, and we'll also have our the ability to experience social media for people to view. But again, from our hearts, we thank you, Jim, for joining us. It means so much, and it's an honor just to speak with you today.
Well, thank you. And I know Nicole would have loved to have been here, but just was not available today. And you all take care, okay?
You too.
All right. Thank you.
As well.
Bye-bye.
Be well.